Hey there, Chassie.
Hi, Gina.
Well, I want to introduce you to everybody. So, this is one of my dear friends, Chassie Bell with Chassie Bell Designs. And
Mhm.
she is one of my soul sister biz besties that I absolutely love. And we've known each other for, I don't know, how many years?
Three or
At
four
least three
years.
years. Yeah,
Yeah,
three
these
going
might
on
have been a little
four.
longer, but
Yeah. And you are one of my closest entrepreneur friends, probably even just friends in general, because we talk often and you really get me and you know me and all that wonderful stuff. And I love you. And yes, and I'm so excited because you are joining us at the Girls Weekend for Your Soul or Girls Weekend for Your Business Soul retreat coming
hmm
up in Seattle this September. And Chassie has been not only an amazing person to me in my business and as a friend, but she has also done a couple of these retreats with me. She's even hosted one at her own beautiful, amazing house in San Diego. So she's been a part of the process with me, and she's also going to be one of the Biz Bestie mentors at this upcoming one. To help everybody with branding and website and authenticity and all this wonderful stuff that she can help you with. But I would love for Chassie, because she's been a part of the process of these Girls Weekends for Your Soul. So I'd love, Chassie, for you just to kind of share your experience. And then I have some other questions for you too. But first, give
Okay.
me your experience and kind of how you've seen, how you've experienced the retreats in general.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you for that introduction. That was so sweet. And wow, have we
Already
been through a lot in
a
the
lot.
last couple of years or few years. And it's kind of fun now, to see where we are both at now and, the
Yeah.
trajectory that we're taking in this life of entrepreneurship is, it's serious business.
Serious.
Yeah, it is. And so I mean, my first Girls Weekend for Your Soul retreat was a little over a year ago. And when I came to the retreat, I was so exhausted, burnt out,
Yeah.
overwhelmed, and in my life and in my business. I had, left my full-time job and was, doing my business full time, but it wasn't fulfilling me like I thought it would. I didn't, I was really overwhelmed. My marriage was on the rocks. I was having a really tough time in my marriage. I felt really out of love with my body and myself. I felt, just a lot of, you just get into those self-talk, self-sabotage things where I just
Right.
felt all those things. I felt fat and ugly and unhealthy and, just everything. It was like everything in my life was going
Yeah.
not great. It was hard. And I came to the retreat mostly because I just wanted a weekend to get away. I wanted to recharge. I was curious. I was curious about what it meant to figure out what your core desired feelings were. And I had heard you talk about it a lot of times, and I was really I felt aligned with that work, but I was really just kind of curious about it, and I thought, you know what, why not? I need this. And so, the experience for me was transformative. In fact, the weekend itself was the connection with the other women was incredible. The exercises were so eye-opening. It was fun. We laughed, we danced, we drank, we cried. It was just like everything under the sun. And I came away from the weekend with my feelings, my core desired feelings, which are
Yes.
fun, joy, ease, and freedom were
Yes.
my four feelings, which have after a year are still the same. Every now and then I'll
Awesome.
pop a little extra one, but and I wasn't really it was great and I was so excited about it. And it wasn't until months later, and even now, still to this day, how really taking those feelings and interjecting them into every aspect of my life and asking myself, how do I want to feel? And does this align with those things? Did I really start to see the impact, doing that work had on my marriage, my business, my life, my health? Every decision I made was, founded around how do I want to feel? And um, I mean, it's been incredible.
Oh, I love hearing that. And it is, obviously I agree, right? That it's pretty powerful work. It doesn't sound like it's that powerful. Like when somebody just asks, how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
But when you actually
Yeah.
get clear on how you want to feel and then you make all your decisions based off that moving forward, I think
Hmm.
that's huge.
And that's an excellent point because, you can say like, I mean, I feel like most of us, we know how we want to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? We want to be happy, but what does that really mean to be
Mm-hmm.
happy?
Translate
And
to. Mm-hmm.
yeah, how does that translate into my life and my work? And, I was of the mentality that, you got to grind it out. You got to, do all these things. You're an entrepreneur. You have to say yes to everything. You have to
Mm-hmm.
burn the midnight oil. You have to work 10, 12 hours a day. And,
Mm-hmm.
that was the requirements to have a successful business. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was so wrong about that.
Yeah.
Uh, and because none of that stuff felt good, right? None of that brought me joy. It wasn't fun. So it was an ease. I mean, who wants to work 12 hours a
I
day?
know,
And
right? Yeah, ease is one of my words too, for sure.
that and the freedom, the whole reason why I wanted to be an entrepreneur was I wanted freedom.
Yes. Oh,
Uh,
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So, like, freedom's a big word for most entrepreneurs or most people who are like creating something new and exciting. And I mean, if you're not feeling free in your own business, like, there's something that needs to change, right? And this is the whole preface, right? If how you're doing it doesn't feel good, then something needs to change, right? And we need to
exactly.
change, and then let's move forward feeling good. And
Hmm.
we quit our jobs or change our schedule so we feel like we have all this freedom. But if you're moving in a way that's totally now still restricted, and you're chained to your desk, and you're doing things that aren't feeling like they're helpful, but you feel like you have to do them anyways, like all those things.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
not good.
freedom.
And and specifically, like, what does freedom mean to me? It's different for what it
Yes,
means to other people, and
exactly.
and so I think the exercises that we did and a lot of the work that we did in getting really clear around how we wanted to feel, it just took it deeper. It's like I want to be happy. Well, what does that mean? What does that feel like?
Mm-hmm.
Like what does that look like? How does it sound? What is it? If you could picture your day, all of those like visualization.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, right. It's like
Mhm.
really tethering those words. Because I think a lot of people who haven't even done this type of work, they'll set like a word for the year, right? They'll be
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
my word for the year is connection or abundance, or they'll just like pick a word. People that haven't even
Hmm.
done desire mapping or any type of this work, they just pick this like word. But if you really haven't gone deep, I feel like, and like you said, well, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean? Like dig it deeper and like really tether
Yeah.
yourself to those words. I think
Hmm.
they'll become more tangible. Does that
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sense?
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny is it's just it made me think of remember something very specific about that weekend is that because
Mm-hmm.
I was coming from that place of just overwhelmed and exhaustion and was that I remember a lot of the words that I was writing down were like the opposite of what I want to feel. Like I was like I know how I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to feel stressed and I felt like the words that I was coming up with at first were like, you know, uh yeah, like I don't want stressed. I want to feel secure and safe. And there were some
Mm-hmm.
things that I was saying that weren't really feelings that, in that group environment, like one, it was like able to switch flop, okay, well, what
Mm-hmm.
does not being stressed, look like, feel like, and what does, what does safety mean to me? What does
Yeah.
secure mean to me? That was a big one for me. It's
Yeah.
like I just wanted to feel safe, and it was, it was interesting. So it was just it was just really deep work, and I was so curious and interested in it, and it's been incredible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is. You're right. You're getting to the point where we are really, at the retreat, we really break apart the words and we break apart the
Hmm.
feelings. And this is what I know I've even experienced doing this type of work in a group setting versus like if you just go read the desire map. And I think you might have even read the desire map before, parts of
Hmm.
it. There's a lot of people who've read it on their own. And I was even one of those people. But when you do the work together, right? Like I'm going to challenge you on your word. So you could
Yeah.
easily just write your word down and move on. But it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you just said you wanted safe because some people don't even know what a feeling word is, right? So
Yeah.
we explore that. And so I'm like, okay, right? And so we dive deeper and we kind of pick apart, I think of it as like a puzzle. We just kind of like put it all together and we pick apart what
Hmm.
these words really mean. And most of the time on our own, we're not going to second, third, fourth guess ourselves or question ourselves. We're just going to write the word down and move on. And so that's what I love about these retreats is as a collaborative, we're all asking each other, like, what does that really mean to us?
Yeah, it's such a great way to put it. And I would even say that like you have this gift of really being able to hone in on, really what it means to pick apart those words and what do they really mean? And how do they like, you just have this like knack for getting in there and like asking just the right questions to help elicit really how someone is, what they're really trying to convey. Because, sometimes it's hard for us to convey how we're feeling and what we want in words. I know I often have that problem and like, I just, I don't know how to say it, but I'm this. And I don't really know what that means. And, and you just have this gift of really being able to pull that from somebody. And I feel like that was one of the things that was so helpful in the retreat was that part of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually, that sounds nerdy, but I actually think it's fun. Like, okay, like, let's go deeper. Let's pull out,
Yeah.
Super fun. So yeah, I actually remember at this last retreat that I had last fall, one of the gals, we were sitting, I vividly remember this. We were sitting on the porch and we were kind of brainstorming in little groups and I was challenging her on her words and she got uncomfortable. She's like, stop asking me that, because I'd be like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, let's go deeper. Because she really hadn't hit on a feeling word yet. She was kind of surface level words. And I was just challenging her again. And I remember her getting like kind of silly but uncomfortable, being like, stop asking me that question, even though she knows. So she's having lots of resistance around those words. And, and she's actually a client of mine now. And it's just so funny because we talk about that instance when she got uncomfortable. But it's like I needed to push her past that uncomfortableness so that she could finally get to these words that she now tethers all of her decisions based off of. And it's just so magical. It's pure magic.
It is. And, there's so, one of the things is, I'm a big believer in strategy, right? And being able to have, a plan and action and to move forth with, you set a goal and then you have to create the steps to get there, right? Yeah. And it's something that's really important to me. And, I, in this world that we live in, this entrepreneurial world, and also I'm very like involved in the spiritual world as well and, the, holistic side of things. And, there's this mentality of, manifestation and, visualizing what you want and, the secret stuff and, believe it and it will happen. And while I do believe that there's some mindset stuff around really being open enough to feel like you deserve and want those things and to, see yourself in it, but there has to be, are those things aligned with how I want to feel? And are my actions aligned with how I want to feel and going after the things that I want?
Yes.
And, it's like this triad of pillars that are, crucial to like getting to your goals and getting to the next step of what life has for us.
Definitely. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah. And it's interesting. So this next one, I think in the past, these retreats that I've done have all been more holistic. We've looked at every aspect of somebody's life. Moving forward, this one in September is going to be a little bit more focused on business, though the desire map process is really important for all areas of their life. So we're going to get through that. And then we're going to focus on how they want to feel in their business, a little bit more clarity around that. And so when we usually touch that, right, that's usually one of your words, right, when we move forward. But then getting in, like your business is a living and breathing thing, I feel. Like it's has its own life. And so we're really giving that an identity as well.
Yeah.
How do you think that might be transformative for somebody?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, at least I can speak from my own experience is that because I had come into the retreat feeling that overwhelmed and all of these things, that when I left the retreat, knowing exactly how I wanted to feel felt like a burden had been taken off of my shoulders. And I did. I wrote it down. I'm a big list maker. So at the beginning, top of my list every, week when I would start my list, I would write down my words. And anytime someone would reach out to me to do an event or to meet for coffee or I've got this great opportunity for you, I would stop, I would say, and ask myself those questions. And, and just by these slow little steps of the practice, I started to feel lighter. I started to have that joy and that fun in my life. And then I said, then I was like, okay, what where do I want to do with my business? And so I want my business to be these things. How can I go about doing them? And what does that look like for me? And, I just got really curious about that and really, I really had to decide. It's interesting, right? So I had two businesses, right? So I
Right.
had Fork and Healthy, which is now my food blog,
Mm-hmm.
was my nutrition business, and now I have Chassie Bell Design, which I've
Yeah.
been a graphic designer for over 15 years. But I gave it all up to study nutrition and to be
Right.
this
You like
entrepreneur.
segmented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said I'm not doing that anymore. I'm a nutritionist, and I had to really evaluate of those things because I was still getting design work. My design work was actually, supporting my nutrition
Right.
business, and I didn't have a website. I have nothing. I was like, I don't do this work,
Yeah.
right? So,
I mean, P.S. You're my designer, so
yeah, I mean, it's so
yeah.
yes, and I love your website. It's still one of my favorites. Um,
I get lots of
and
comments on it, by the way.
um, so I sat down with my husband, and I was really clear with my husband too about, what my feelings are. And it's almost been ingrained in him as well. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed and like, he's like, let's talk about, how does this feel your core values? Or, is this how
Yeah.
you want to
Check in
feel?
with
Let's get
those.
back to that. Let's check in with those. And
Mm.
so I had to sit down and I had to really evaluate these two opportunities. My businesses were opportunities, and I love both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But when I really looked at them from the place of how do they make me feel and how do I want my life to be, I realized that design fulfilled every one of those things, whereas, the nutrition business did not.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I was able to really quickly make decisions on what I needed to do to build a successful business that was at the core of that foundation. And so I went on to hire business coaches, and then, I just completely changed the entire model of my business. And that was, a little over a year ago. And in the past year, I mean, I can't even tell you how grateful I feel to like start work on Monday morning.
Oh,
I'm grateful for Fridays. We're having this conversation on a Friday right
yeah.
now, and I love Fridays too because I get to go do my like happy hour with my girlfriends, and I go to a dance
Mm.
class, and
Yeah.
kicks off my weekend. And the weekend comes, and then it's Monday, and I come to work, and I feel so grateful to do the work that I love, and it's because I really based it on the foundation of those questions. So, or how I want to feel. So, how might this look? I feel like I'm going all over
No,
the
it's okay, but
board
it's
with.
all wonderful stuff. I mean, yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, what I'm really looking forward to with this retreat and being a part of it with you is really going deeper into those things. Like how can we really get clear? Like now that I know what my feelings are, how can I apply them to my business? How
Mm-hmm.
can I create a strategy around how I want to feel and what are the next steps to take in my business?
Yeah.
And you and I have done a lot of business growth,
Mm-hmm.
together on our own and with our own
Mm-hmm.
businesses. And I feel like we have such um, a great vibe, a working vibe together. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to help the women who come to the retreat, like go really deep in that, because a lot of it has to do with like getting curious and opening up and like wondering, like, what if,
Mm-hmm.
what could be? Gosh, there's just so much there.
So much there. I know. I almost
Mhm.
think like that weekend is not even enough, right? Like there's
Yeah.
just so much. It's
Yeah. And it's what, and I did two retreats with you,
yeah.
and it was, and I did it again, it was like it reiterated how I want to feel. And it was actually almost like validating, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm like, how can you keep going? Right.
Yeah.
We don't, take up something new and expect to be experts in it right away. It takes practice.
Yeah. I love that
I,
you hit on that because that is one thing that I wrote down that that you mentioned earlier. It's like you write it down every day, every week, and you put it into practice, and it takes a while before it like really sinks in and like really gels. And I think that's one thing just to for people to know about the retreat is like you retreat, you figure it out, but then it's a practice moving forward. It's like a way of
yeah.
life, really, and a way of checking in with yourself, and it's a beautiful tool. And yeah, I think that that's essential to the success. I think there's, if you come to the retreat and you do all this work and then you forget about it and you don't put it into practice, then it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's just like going to, if you do a juice cleanse or something, and it's like you focus for 3 days and all you're doing is juicing, you're eating healthy and for 3 days. And then it's like, before that and after that, before you binged on all kinds of the food that you weren't going to be allowed to have for a
Yeah.
few days, and then you just went right back to your habits. Like in everything that you did in those 3 days, it just
Yeah.
becomes null and void. And so, yeah, it's really putting it into play and being really, there's a one word that I want to talk about a little bit, if it's
Yeah.
okay with you, but
Totally.
ease is a big part of what I want personally out of my business and my
Me too.
life.
It's one of
And
my words. Yeah.
yeah, and I have this conversation a lot, and
Hmm.
I think sometimes it's interesting when I first came home with it and I said it to my husband, he's like, but you still got to work hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can't just like it doesn't ease does not necessarily mean easy, right?
Exactly. I say that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I got a little defensive and I was like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, and I'm like,
I need more ease in my
let's
life.
eat. Yeah, and there are days that I work. I'm actually pretty regularly work 10
Yeah, you
hour
do.
days,
Hmm.
and I have 1 or 2 days where I do short days. I plan meetings and blah blah blah. Those days go by so fast because I'm doing stuff that provide me joy and that I find ease in. Now, whenever I butt up against something that's not working and it's a struggle and it's stressful and I feel constricted, I walk away from it for a minute. I take a
Hmm.
breath, I sleep on it the next day, because it's not giving me that ease, that flow that I want. I don't feel like because
Totally.
you can like force something and be at it for 5 hours and walk away from it and go, I am so drained and exhausted and I don't have anything to show for it. And so, so sometimes I have to stop and ask myself, okay, like what I want ease, I want this to be simple. So how can I go about doing that? And,
Hmm.
as a graphic artist and web designer, there are some technical stuff that comes up with designing websites that sometimes makes you want to like throw your computer out the window.
I would have to
And
agree.
and I get really like honed in and crazy about like I got to figure this out. What I got to do with this going on? Like, why isn't this working? I'm on forums on this and that and this and that, and like I'm like it should be so easy. Why isn't this working? And it's like sometimes I'll get caught up in that. Like I remember one time it was I spent 2.5 hours one night trying to get a client's email to work on their website.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do this all the time. Why isn't it not working? What's going on? Check. Like, I'm checking all my systems, and I was just like, "Bah!" It's dark. Steve's like, are we going to have dinner? Like, just one more time. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to send it off to my assistant because sometimes I forget that I have an assistant that can help me. She's a developer. The assistant's not really the right word, but it's like, you know what? I'm going to send it off to her. Next morning, oh, it was just something real simple. Took me 15 minutes.
Right.
And
Right.
had I at the very beginning of that, or at the moment that I noticed I was feeling that pressure and that constriction that wasn't easy anymore, had I stepped back and checked in with that feeling and said, okay, I'm going to just give it to someone who I know will be, who could do it quickly. That
Hmm.
2.5 hours, or that 3 hours that I was in agony could have been spent finishing another project or having dinner with my husband. And
Totally.
so that was a long story. I'm sorry about that. But like,
That's
it's
okay.
just like, it's being able to check in with those things.
Definitely. I think that that's key. So, moving forward with that, I think that, anybody can benefit from these retreats, but, who do you think, obviously somebody who wants more ease, more freedom, could benefit from this retreat? Anything else that, who are these women that should really be coming?
Yeah. I mean,
Frustrated,
yeah.
like
Are
you
you
were.
overwhelmed in your business? Do you feel like you have to grind it out, that being an entrepreneur is stressful and you don't know where to start and what to do? And it's, if you feel like you're lacking clarity and drive and you feel like you have to do all of it yourself,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're anywhere in that space, absolutely, this treat is fantastic, would be a great idea for you. And I think in general, like if you want, and I'm going to say this as like a broad example because I can't imagine that, I feel like everybody wants more happiness and joy and fun in their life.
Hmm.
And those are my words. And so I'm on my map at the current moment.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's hard for me to even believe that someone would want to have not have those things in
Right.
their life. And so to come to into an environment where you're embodying that for like 2.5, 3 days, and you're surrounded by women who, in the safe environment where you're lifting each other up and you're supporting each other and you're connecting and there's accountability and there's love and there's a hug and a glass of wine at the end of the day, like, you know, it's exactly what we all need. And I know in my life, the women in my life, it's like we've all been craving it, right?
Yeah.
We crave connection and we crave the support and love from other women.
Yeah.
It's part of what builds up our communities and makes us successful.
Mm-hmm.
And our husbands and our partners, whether we have them or not, they're wonderful and they play their incredible role in our lives. But to have that sisterhood of women, I mean, that is, it's just so good.
I
So
agree.
yeah.
I don't think I'd be here without my soul sisters, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I get teary-eyed just thinking about it. Like, I think that the
I
amount
kind of
of growth and support that I've had, you and some of my others, like, oh, it's so amazing. And one of my main core desired feelings is connection, and it has been for years. And I'm getting totally teary-eyed.
I know, I totally am too. Like,
And I hope that everybody watching can like maybe tune into this, that like how, Chassie and I met at a retreat, basically, like years ago. Not this intimate retreat, but we met and we were connected. And then from there, we've had many retreats and we've developed a friendship. And it just, the support of having other women around you, like, just know that Chassie and I want to share this with you, right? Like,
yeah.
we want you guys to be here with us and to like flow in this feeling. And we want you to come away with this weekend just as close, and just feeling like you have the power and you have people behind you to move forward, and that you can call up on the phone when you're feeling down, and, all those wonderful things. And, yeah.
I know. It takes a huge amount of vulnerability to be able to in any sort of environment where maybe you don't know people, or maybe come into an environment like this and you think, oh my gosh, I should be this way, or I should be this in my business, and I hate that word,
Yeah,
and and it's a moment where what we can do is just like bare our hearts and say, I'm going to come into this space and I'm going to be open and curious and see what happens. And and I mean, I believe that everyone comes there, they're there for a purpose and a reason.
totally.
And in our very first retreat, like, I was a disaster. I remember having to go take a nap in the middle of the day because I just felt like I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I was so worn out and just felt like, oh, like I didn't know what was going to happen in my life. And at the second retreat, I was in such a better place. And there was someone else who was at this precipice in their life, who was in this really tough, hard spot. And, and what we did, like, as a group, like, we supported and, like, we like wrapped our arms around her and around each other. And, and here we went, we just carried on. And, like, the transformation and the joy that came from that. I mean, it's life changing.
It is. Yeah. We could probably talk about this forever, I'm sure.
I know.
But hopefully everybody, if you're thinking about it, some people have already said yes, but and there's even people returning. I even have a client who came to the last one in September. She's coming back all the way from the East Coast. So she definitely sees value in it, coming back, and rechecking in on this. But, I'm so excited to have you there. One, just because I want to see you again. And, it's fun for us too. But then also just to support all these women. So those of you that are thinking about it, you can reach out to me and Chas, but, we're here to support you. And we have a couple other mentors. Actually, the other two mentors, both Mickey and Heather, have been to the retreat too as well. So that's also really important because they know what to expect from the retreat. Though Chassie has been with me since the very beginning. So, yeah. So, anything else you want to add before we kind of put a bow on it?
I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, I would kind of love to share what my business results have been in the last year, a little over a year since getting really clear about my feelings and using that as the foundation. Is, in the last year, I've had my most financially successful year to date in my entire life.
We need to pop some champagne for that.
Yeah, I know, right? I have, a wait list of clients. I'm doing work that I love. It brings me so much joy, and it's so much like my life is so fulfilled, and so I'm hitting my financial goals, and that is allowing me to have a lot more fun and joy and ease in my life, and I'm having fun doing it, and I'm connecting with really incredible women, and it's been great, and I want that for anyone else who wants that for themselves, right? And so yeah, that has been my results from doing this work, and so I think that those are kind of fun and important because, right, we become entrepreneurs. We want to make money,
right? So you can do all these amazing things and feel
so you
free.
do all these amazing things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I gave my housekeeper a raise today. You know how good that felt?
Yeah.
Like the amount of ease she gives to my life,
Right.
like
I love housekeepers.
me.
Yep.
Yeah, like, and I mean, I just walked around the house before our call. I'm like, oh, it feels so good. And we gave her a raise today, and that just felt so good that I could be in a place to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. Okay, well, we're going to put a bow on it because I'm sure people have been listening maybe for a little while, and we'll be checking it out. But if you're thinking about the retreat, remember it's only for 10 people, and because we still like to keep it really intimate, and Chassie and I want to get to know you, and we want to help you in the best way that we can. So it's a very intimate retreat. And if you seeking connection, and we're going to have fun too. There is also a jacuzzi. Bring your bathing suit. Right? So you can have your glass of wine, your champagne, and then we can go in the jacuzzi. So it'll be really fun and relax, which I'm also looking forward to. So, So, please hit us up with questions. We would love to have you. And don't hesitate because there's only 10 spots. So thanks, Chas. I can't wait to see you in September.
Know. Big squeeze.
Bye.
All right.